This is Kick-Ass News. I'm Ben Mathis.
I've always loved mysteries. After my 30-year stint as a Marine, comedian, and actor, I'm tackling the biggest mysteries the world has to offer.
I can do this. Can I do this?
Let's hammer time. Let's go smash something. Come on, Carl.
Okay.
Hey, you looking at a champ.
This place is full of ghost ships and treasures.
Hey, you looking at a champ.
I'm gonna be rich.
He is Rob Riggle, Global Investigator.
Rob, what are you doing?
I'm gonna get the Holy Grail.
You looking at a champ.
What's that?
That was a preview of Discovery Channel's new series, Rob Riggle, Global Investigator. Each week, Rob Riggle will use his self-proclaimed extensive knowledge of everything to explore a mystifying legend that takes him on an epic journey around the world. Relying on his mental toughness and self-taught high-performance karate, Riggle will take on some of the biggest challenges and most daring adventures he's ever faced. Rob Riggle Global Investigator premieres March 8th at 10 p.m. Eastern on Discovery, and today Rob returns to the show to share his lifelong love of history and why he wanted to do a series that's both funny and educational. He discusses a few of his recent adventures, from searching for the Holy Grail to chasing the trail of the 9th Roman Legion, from hunting for cowboy treasure to diving for pirate treasure. Rob talks about what it's like to play a heightened version of himself on the show, his trademark persona that he likes to refer to as arrogant ignorance, and what happens when sometimes fans don't know the difference between the real Rob and his character. Plus, Rob braves snakes, caves, sharks, quicksand, UFOs, and more. Coming up with Rob Riggle in just a moment. You know the hilarious Rob Riggle from The Daily Show and movies like The Hangover, Dumb and Dumber 2, 21 Jump Street, and Step Brothers. From his time in the Marines to cage diving with sharks, Rob is no stranger to danger, and now he's embarking on the adventure of a lifetime, exploring the globe to solve the world's greatest mysteries for his new series, Rob Riggle, Global Investigator, which premieres on Discovery Network March 8th. I'm happy to welcome Rob Riggle, or as I like to call him, the original KC masterpiece, back to the show. Rob, how you been?
I'm well, thank you so much.
Man, I got to tell you, you just don't slow down. I know you're sick right now, but you know,
and this is a result.
Yeah. Last time we met, you were running a jet ski school, and then you were, I guess, tagging sharks over the past year, and now here you are taking off all over, all Indiana Jones style. Have you always had like this adventurous spirit and this love to get out there and travel and just cram everything into your time?
I think so. I think I don't. Yeah, now that you mention it, probably. I think I'm driven for some reason. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's, I don't know. I think time is limited. That's the only thing that is. I think everything else is in abundance, but time is definitely limited. So if you're going to go out and do things in this life, you should go out and do them.
Yeah, you pack a lot into a year, man.
Yeah. It has been busy.
It's exciting.
Last year was probably my busiest year ever, and this year is shaping up to be a very busy year as well.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to the show. I've only seen some clips, I think, of Rob Riggle, Global Investigator, and I read in the press release here that I guess your grandfather inspired you to become sort of an explorer. What kind of guy was he?
Oh, well, that's it's part of the myth as well, so it's a little built in. It's a little built in.
Okay, that's the trick with you.
Yes.
I never know what's real and what's not. What's the myth of Rob Riggle versus the real Rob Riggle?
Yeah, no, look, I think I'm very passionate. I'm very passionate about history. I'm a history buff. I love history.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm a big fan of the Discovery Channel. I watch a lot of their shows, and I enjoy it. I've always enjoyed it. And so after doing Shark Week, I was lucky enough to sit down with Will Packer, who's just an amazing producer. And we had worked on Night School together, and we had worked on Shark Week together. And he just looked at me and said, man, did you have any ideas for doing a show on Discovery? And the thing about our business, as well as I do, you always have ideas. I've got
Sure.
ideas. I've got a bunch written down. I got a bunch in my head, but you're always developing, always developing. So that when on that occasion when a producer like Willa Packer asks you, hey, you got any ideas? I had them at my fingertips, ready to go, because I'd been thinking about it for so long as a viewer of Discovery and a fan of Discovery. So I just spit it out. I was like, yeah, I do. It's called Rob Riggle Global Investigator. I had the name and everything. I was like, Rob Riggle Global Investigator. I go around the world solving mysteries. It's kind of like an Indiana Jones meets Pink Panther, so I'm kind of a bumbling, stumbling investigator. And I go out and we take on the world's greatest mysteries and we try to solve them, and we have a lot of fun while we do it, so there'll be some laughs. And he goes, okay. And I was like, really? He was like, yep. And that was it.
It's that easy in Hollywood,
yeah,
huh?
Exactly.
Just walk into the room.
Everybody thinks it's that easy. And in this particular case, it wasn't far off from that.
Yeah.
Now we had to get other people to buy into it.
Yeah.
Even the name, because I thought of the name a long time ago, and I threw it out there. They kept putting it on all the paperwork and everything. Kind of like with a TBD next to it, like this is a placeholder. We're going to come up with a much better name. And I was like, whatever you guys want to do. But that was and eventually it was like, no, this is the name. That's what it is.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you can't do better than that. Rob Riggle, Global Investigator.
I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
So that's why we went with it. I thought it was the kind of title that you'd go, okay, I got to know more about this.
Yeah. And then I watched the clips, and I think I've seen some photos from the show, and here you are. It looks like you're in the middle of the desert. You're climbing through caves. At one point, it looks like you're waist deep in some kind of sinkhole in the woods or something like that. I mean, who says being a celebrity isn't glamorous?
That was in the bogs of Scotland.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I was covered in mosquitoes. That was a miserably hard day, and I was standing in this stinky sinkhole in a bog. I was standing in a bog up to my hips. And I was actually like, you guys got to get a rope to pull me out of here because I couldn't get out. And like I said, the bugs were everywhere and mosquitoes, and it was a hard shoot. That day.
My
was
God.
tough. Yeah.
I mean, your poor wife, she probably was so relieved when you finally retired from the Marines and, got out of harm's way. And now here you are swimming with sharks and messing around with snakes and stuff. I mean,
yeah, I don't know what I'm doing.
Does Rob Riggle have a reckless and risky side to him, or is it just all reckless and risky?
Are you some sort of adrenaline junkie?
Yeah.
No, not at all. I'm adverse to it. Matter of fact, a good movie and a couch works for me as well.
Yeah.
But if you're out there doing it, get out there and do it. You know?
Go full speed.
And this global investigating stuff is fun because we take on so many mysteries from around the world, and a lot of them require. I'm scuba certified, so we were diving in the cauldron off of in the middle of Santorini in Greece. We were diving in the Florida Straits. We were diving in Florida swamps of Key West. We were doing some. We were getting after it. We were doing some work.
Yeah, you get around.
So it was good.
Do you have any phobias? Because I saw snakes. I saw all kinds of stuff. Heights.
I'm not
darkness,
aware of
anything?
any. Yeah, I'm not aware
Nothing?
of any phobias yet.
Yeah.
I don't. I think if you want to be happy, don't overthink.
Oh, okay. Is that your military training speaking to?
Maybe, yeah. And my improv training.
Yeah.
At the UCB, the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater, where I came up doing improv, the motto there is "Don't think,
Yeah.
just do, just do it."
Now, what kind of mysteries and legends are you looking into on Rob Riggle Global Investigator?
Well, we go after some things. I'm like I said earlier, and we talked about this. I'm a history buff, and I really a fan of Discovery. So when I watch a Discovery show or any kind of historical show, I like things based in fact. Mm-hmm. And then, explain to me some theories or explain to me some other things. Give me something I want to know, a new, fresh look or whatever. So I wanted the mysteries to be based in fact and history, something real, something tangible. Even if it seems like it might not be real, there's enough literature or a preponderance of evidence that says there are enough people here are saying this place existed. Let's go investigate it. And so I always try to choose off of that. The Cowboys, the first crime syndicate in the U.S., the guys that basically fought Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday and the Earp brothers. Those were the Cowboys, and they were really one of the first crime syndicates. organized.
The Cowboys were catching them?
No, the Cowboys.
Oh, the Cowboys.
They were called
Okay.
the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And they were an organized crime organization in the territory of Arizona. So you can imagine how wild the West was, but imagine if it's not a state. Imagine it's just a territory.
Yeah.
So it's even more wild.
Literally the Wild West.
It really was
Yeah.
the wild, wild West. And the Cowboys gold. They obviously robbed some people. They did some things. They have a treasure chest or a treasure somewhere that people are looking for actively. Black Caesar's treasure down in the Florida Straits. Black Caesar was one of the last pirates and one of the most notorious, like really a bad dude. And so I picked things that I thought were real. The Roman Ninth Legion, the missing Ninth Legion.
I didn't know about that. I saw that on the list. What
I
is
was
that?
fascinated by that. So the Roman Ninth Legion, also known as the Hispania Legion, because they conquered Spain, landed in Britannia in 49 AD. That's when the Romans came over and claimed Britannia, the island.
Right.
The Ninth Legion, after conquering Spain, they brought the Ninth Legion in and to help be part of that. So the Ninth Legion was very big in helping to conquer England and Britannia, especially, right? And they fought Boudica and they fought, they did a lot of things, but they were one of the greatest fighting forces on earth at that time. Organized, disciplined, true warriors.
Yeah. And the island of Britain is not easy to invade.
No,
too.
not at all.
Hitler found that out.
Right. Yeah. And you were talking about, this is, again, 49 AD.
Yeah.
So anyway, they land, they conquer Britannia. They are doing amazing things. They go up, they start a city called York in the north of England. And about the year it's debatable, but people say 117, 118, the Roman Legion assembles in York and they march north into Scotland, and they disappear. No one ever hears or sees from them again. And so that sent shockwaves throughout the empire. When word got back to the Roman Emperor Hadrian, he was terrified that one of his greatest fighting legions could be annihilated, wiped off the face, no trace, and nobody wanted to go look for him either because they were too scared to go north. So Hadrian came from Rome over to Britannia. Think about that journey. Came to Britannia, went up north into York, and then built a wall.
Oh, right, yeah. Hadrian's Wall.
Hadrian's Wall. It goes from coast to coast, cuts off Scotland from England. It was 70 miles long and about 20 feet high, and it was garrisoned every quarter mile or so. And he manned it and basically cut him off. Now, George Martin, who wrote Game of Thrones in 1981, came to Hadrian's Wall and was spending time there, and that's where he wrote Game of Thrones. And guess what? Hadrian's Wall is the wall in the north.
No
if you watch
kidding.
Game of Thrones.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
So the wildlings who lived north of the wall, remember how fierce they were and terrified?
Yeah.
Well, that's what the the Celtic tribes of Scotland were too, because there was a plant up there too that you see in Braveheart where they all paint their faces blue. It's a real plant, and so when it gets wet, they can paint their face that bluish color. And so these Scottish tribes would paint their faces, and they were terrifying because they were more guerrilla style fighting and vicious warriors. Wow. And so that's why Hadrian's Wall. It's all connected, but then. To me, it was so fascinating, and then to actually go stand on the wall and you realize, this wall was built, 2,000 years ago, basically, and I'm standing on this wall. It's still here. The garrison's still there. Vindelandia, which was the massive garrison that where all the Roman troops were stationed for. It's like modern day. You get stationed there for 2 or 3 years, and then you get to come back to Rome, or you get to. But legionaries go be stationed there, and they'd spend 3 years. And
wow,
so it was
incredible,
fascinating stuff, and the history's there. It's real. The encampments, the cities, the wall itself. So it was
pretty
really
cool.
Yeah, it was fascinating, and I had never known the story of the Ninth Legion. Yeah. So
I mean, there are probably a lot of Scots who want to rebuild the wall now. I mean, from what it sounds like. That is fascinating. Yeah. Now, I think that I read that you're also doing the Holy Grail. Was that also in that region of England?
Yes, it was. Well, we were
of Scotland.
Yeah, We were on the north side of Hadrian's Wall.
Okay. Yeah.
The Holy Grail has a fascinating story too, because you talk about the Knights Templar, the what they did, and the system of banking that they created and the power they accumulated.
Yeah.
And then they got too powerful, so they were double crossed by the Pope and the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And when the church decided they were excommunicado, if you're a John Wick fan, all the Templars had to run for their lives.
Yeah.
Because the whole world just turned on them.
Yeah.
And so they
Don't
grabbed.
be conspicuous with your wealth. I think that's the lesson there.
Yeah. And what would you do if everybody's like out to get you? Well, you're going to grab all your valuables and you're going to flee to some place where you could be safe. Well, the only place that was safe at the time was Scotland, because continental Europe, France especially, were Catholic and taking their orders from Rome. Or
Right.
whatever. So, but Scotland wasn't. Scotland, was not part of that system. So they all fled to Scotland. Huh. And there's all kinds of great historical proof to back all this up. But it was fascinating. And then you follow certain groups and the history about how all of a sudden when the Knights Templar, because you got to remember the Knights Templar were the elite warriors of their day. They had done many crusades. They understood tactics. They understood weaponry. They understood warfare, strategy, everything. And they were wealthy. And they were when they arrive in Scotland, and within a couple years of arriving in Scotland, all of a sudden the Scots beat the English at Bannockburn.
Huh.
And because they had the Templars fighting with them.
Interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so the Templars were fighting with them. And it's just interesting. You can really see how this elite group moved around. And so anyway, there's a lot of compelling evidence to suggest that the Grail found its way to Scotland. Now, where it is now is, still a mystery.
Now, what do you believe? Because there's some debate over whether it's a physical object in reality, or whether it's a metaphor, or whether it's the bloodline of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
What's your theory?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I mean, I feel like it's an actual physical thing.
Yeah. It's more fun to think that.
Yeah, because it was the cup used to catch Christ's blood, and so it's a physical thing. Now, your guess is as good as mine on any of the mystical qualities of it, but
right, yeah.
But as far as artifacts go,
a life forever, huh?
Yeah.
What it's like.
Well, now I did find a cup. And I did drink from it.
Yeah.
So we'll just
How'd
have
that work out?
Well,
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We just got to wait and see.
Yeah, I don't know. You got a cold today, so that's not a good sign.
That's not a good sign, but I'm also not dying, so it feels good. So I feel like
true.
I got a puncher's chance here.
Yeah. Did you go back and watch Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade before that?
I didn't. I should have.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
I'd seen it 100 times.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. All those inspirations for me on that particular.
Yeah, probably more Monty Python and the Holy Grail than the Last Crusade in your case, probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
As much as I could get through.
We're going to take a quick break, and then I'll be back with more when we come back in just a minute. Today's episode is brought to you by Kronos. Kronos knows that for many organizations, maintaining a modern workforce of hourly, full, or part-time workers can be a challenge. This is especially true for human resources professionals working hard to attract and retain all the best talent. That's why Kronos puts HR, payroll, talent, and timekeeping on a single cloud-based platform. It's one especially designed to give HR professionals supporting a blended workforce a whole new level of confidence. With Kronos, they have everything they need to tackle nearly any human resources challenge and are empowered to not just find and hire the right people, but to engage, motivate, and reward them every step of the way. Learn more about Kronos HR solutions for the modern workforce and the people who support them at kronos.com/HRswagger. That's kronos.com/HRswagger. Kronos, workforce innovation that works. Now, I'm curious about this pirate treasure and cowboy treasure. Which is more difficult and which is more profitable?
Well, look, if Black Caesar's treasure is real, to be believed, if all the evidence is to be believed and all the letters and the hearsay, and if it's to be believed, it was worth millions in the early 1800s.
Wow.
So if that's the case, it would be worth tens of millions today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
That could be a good thing.
Yeah. What about the cowboy treasure? What is cowboy treasure?
Cowboy
Who
treasure
usually
is,
think of
again,
that?
the Cowboys were a syndicate.
Right.
First organized crime organization in the United States, and they did everything, but it was organized. You know, they were rustlers, they were bank robbers, they were stagecoach robbers. Anything that was going on in Arizona, they had their hands in. But they centered their power a little bit. Curly Bill, being kind of the ringleader, kind of the godfather, was kind of the godfather, and he had a lot of young cowboys who would work for him and work, you know, but you always had to check in with him. It was kind of a centralized command. So it was, you know, kind of stifled initiative. But when people did take initiative, they had to kick money up to Curly Bill. So that, but anyway, fascinating.
I can't get over that name. That's not very intimidating. Curly Bill.
Yeah. Curly Bill Brocious, I think was his name. So anyway, but again, the border really it wasn't hard to find, and it wasn't patrolled very well. So you had at that time, a lot of Mexican missionaries coming north into Arizona because of their own troubles down in Mexico. And as they fled into Arizona, they came with all their bounty, all their booty, you know, chest full of silver and gold and payrolls, and, you know, all kinds of stuff. And I guess some of the younger cowboys heard about a big shipment coming up, and they knew the exact route of where this wagon train was coming. So they set up an ambush, ambushed the wagon train, killed everybody. Nobody survived, you know, on the wagon train. Took all the gold and silver and hid it because it was too heavy to move. All in, you know, because they even shot the horses in the ambush, so they couldn't. They couldn't get the
talk about added insult to injury,
right? And they obviously didn't think it through. But again, we're talking about 19, 20-year-old kids, you know, that are pulling these heists.
Yeah. So the horses probably would have come in pretty handy if they had to transport all that gold and silver.
Know, they could have taken the wagon train and just kept it going. You know, anyway. So they hid the gold and the silver, and then they went back to the Cowboys to report, you know, to the boss. Hey, we got this booty. We want to give you a taste. We want to da 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 da. But then a funny thing happened. The Herb brothers and Doc Holliday decided to have a shootout at the OK Corral just about this time. And that set off a chain of events where now the movie condenses everything, the timeline. It gets really condensed. But the OK Corral happened in October of 1881, the shootout there. Then in December of 1881, well, they had the trial shortly after. You know, everybody was free. No convictions. December of 1881, they ambush Virgil Herb with a shotgun blast. It almost took his arm off. He was crippled for life with that injury. Then in, I think it was March of 1882, they shot Morgan Herb.
Oh, yeah.
And killed him in the saloon there. He died on the pool table, just like in the movie. But again, this was spread out over months. It wasn't like in the movie, it happens back to back to back. Right. But in real life, it was spread out over a couple months. But then when they killed Morgan, that broke Wyatt mentally, I think, and spiritually. So then he went and pinned on a U.S. Marshal badge and got back in the law game, but it wasn't the law game. It was called the Vengeance Ride, or the Vengeance Ride. Yeah, because he was like all he was doing was he was going to get payback on all the Cowboys. So he knew. I mean, it's a small community. They know everybody knows who's in each other's gang, so to speak. Yeah. So when he pinned that badge back on after Morgan's death, he went out on a vendetta ride. That's what it called, the vendetta ride, and he just started killing cowboys right and left, and basically broke the cowboy organization because everybody fled the territory. Everybody went to California. They went to Colorado. They just got the heck out of Dodge, so to speak, pun intended. But they got the heck out of Dodge, and anybody who stayed around was pretty much killed Herb's posse. So, and then once he did that, Herb, once he got his vendetta right out of him, he went back to California and lived till like 1924. Then he went up to Alaska and did some stuff. And
wow,
yeah, he had a very adventurous life. But anyway, that gold, because those cowboys, I think, were either killed or something happened to the cowboys that did the actual heist. It was never recovered.
Huh.
So
it's still out there.
It's out there.
Wow.
It's out there. And there's some letters that have been written and some articles and some things from some cowboys who knew things. So little indicators, landmarks and stuff that it kind of is out there. So there's a lot of great mysteries right here in the United States, but they're all over the world. So
yeah, I got to tell you, Rob, I am impressed.
Yeah.
You know the dates and the names and everything. You really are a history nut.
Yeah.
So this is not just a total Rob Riggle goof. Like,
no,
there's some educational value to this show.
Absolutely. It's a discovery show first and foremost. And then, because of who I am, I want to have fun. So I put a little pixie dust of comedy on it and then try to make it, throw in a couple laughs. But at the end of the day, you're going to learn something.
Yeah. Now I read that you're also going to be investigating UFOs.
Yeah.
I feel like we're in some kind of a UFO renaissance right now because every time I open my news feed, there's talk of these snake-like UFOs. There's footage of these giant triangles in the sky, all week long. And apparently, I guess either the Navy or the Air Force released a whole big cache of information on UFOs fairly recently. Oh, so there's something in the atmosphere. I mean, literally, but also figuratively.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, some of the stuff is obviously fake and corny, but some of it is unexplainable. And that's where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not cynical, but when I hear this stuff, I don't buy into it. I like to think I'm not gullible, but if you can show me some evidence, if you can give me something to go on, I'll listen.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's totally fake or it's ridiculous or it's preposterous, I'm not going to waste my time, but there's things that are unexplainable and fascinating. And so why not ask questions about those? Why not put some theories to the test? And so that's what we did. We talked to some people who claim to have worked at Area 51.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think there's any massive conspiracy at Area 51. I think what it is a testing ground.
Well, you're a military guy, so do you buy into the idea that a lot of what people are seeing is they're like black ops projects or
I don't know if it's
Trump Space Force or something like that?
I don't know if it's black ops. I think it's spy aircraft.
Black project.
Yeah, it's projects that we have to have aircraft that can do things. We have to have new technology that people don't know about. The SR-71 Blackbird was a plane that built in the early 60s, and it was denied until Desert Storm, until 1991. Yeah. So, they denied it existed. Yeah. And why? Well, because it could do things that were unheard of, flying at twice the speed of sound,
right?
Flying at such high altitudes, being able to go around the globe and that's 1961, 62 technology.
Yeah. Same with stealth bomber.
Yeah. So, stealth bomber. And so they got to be able to go somewhere and test this stuff.
Right.
You can't just fly it out of LAX.
Yeah.
You got to test it somewhere, and you don't want your potential adversaries to know what you're doing. So it's a testing ground to me. Now, other people will argue other things, and that's fine. That's why I kind of I'm a realist. But do I think there are things that we can't explain? Sure. And maybe part of it is this, a secret aircraft that we don't know about. Okay, fine. That's why we can't explain it. And there may be some things that seem out of this world that we can't explain. All right, well, I'm open. Let's talk about it. But again, you got to prove it to me.
Yeah.
So we go and we talk to some fascinating people. And we talk about all kinds of possibilities as far as we look at footage of things that move in the sky, that move at such a rate that it would be, because of the G-forces, not possible for humans to sustain that, or the acceleration, So I go up and I go flying with the Thunderbirds, the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds.
Oh, that's cool.
And I we pulled 9.4 Gs, which is a massive. I mean, all of a sudden I go from this to weighing about 9,000 pounds You know, that's what the weight on my body is at that point.
That's incredible. You didn't pass out?
I didn't pass out. I had a G suit on,
Yeah.
which helped tremendously. And then I was using the breathing techniques that they teach you to do and all that helped. I flew with the Blue Angels, and they didn't give me a G suit, and I did pass out about 7.8, but it was sustained. God, that was a long G pull. We were doing a long, we just kept pulling it, and eventually they started to gray out. And I went down to a tunnel, and then I went to sleep. That was the Blue Angels. But when we did the Air Force, when I was up with the Thunderbirds, we put on a massive G load at 9.4, but we didn't sustain it for longer than 10 or 15 seconds. I mean, it was 10 seconds probably, but it was it was enough that you were really fighting, but it wasn't enough to not had he held it in there for a long time, I probably would have gone down. But again, so we learn about what humans are capable of. We learn about what. So when we see things in the sky, we can kind of say, well, that. Nothing that we know man-wise. I think human beings, men or women, can sustain Gs. I think women sustain Gs better than men, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but they can sustain G force up to 13 Gs or something. But again, being able to do it for a sustained period of time, really difficult. So when we watch things in the sky or footage of things, if you're pulling massive Gs, you go, well, that doesn't seem like it's from this world. So it's interesting.
That's cool.
There's a lot to talk about there.
I mean, when you're looking into UFOs and these government projects and stuff, did your military background open any doors for you?
No.
God,
no.
Not at all.
Not at all. Not one bit.
I mean, did your Marine training come in handy at any point on Global Investigator?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah?
I think so. Yeah. Because we do a lot of adventurous stuff. We're out in the desert. We're in the jungles. We're in the swamps. We're out in the ocean. We're scuba diving all over the place. We're doing a lot of stuff out there that requires adventure.
Yeah, and speaking of scuba diving, this is not your first collaboration with Discovery Network. I think you've done 2 Shark Week specials. One where you took Shaq cage diving with sharks, and then I think the last one was Shark Trip, where you sort of tricked some of your buddies into going tagging sharks. That was hilarious. I mean, what is the most fun about doing a Shark Week special?
Oh,
aside from the obvious, I guess.
Yeah, well, I was very lucky. Well, I had a blast with Shaq. Shaq's always a really fun guy who's down to do a lot of fun things.
He's a good sport.
Pretty good sport, I gotta say. But whenever he didn't want to do something, guess who had to do it? Me. So that was fine, though. I had a good time.
Yeah.
And then the most recent one this past summer, I got to take a bunch of my buddies. So spending time with them, scuba diving with the sharks. You're down 30 feet, you look up to the surface, and there's just a tornado of sharks above you because you're down there chumming the waters, and you realize, I got to get back to the surface through all those sharks. And there's 20, 30 sharks around you.
Yeah, that was scary as hell.
It gets your attention.
I bet.
It really does. And you really are focused. But again, just an amazing experience to be around that.
Yeah. And I think you went after where you wanted to tag the biggest tiger shark in the Caribbean, right? Or in the Bahamian waters, called Zoe. Is that the real name of the shark?
Yes, actually that is.
That's not a very terrifying name for a shark.
Not really, no. You would think it would be something much more ferocious.
Yeah.
But yeah, Zoe's, I believe, 13, maybe 14-foot tiger shark. Yeah, big old beast.
Yeah.
And biggest in the Caribbean. And so, we had a lot of marine biologists. Again, a lot of these, Discovery does it right. They always bring in experts. They bring in people who are academics or experts or have trained and worked in this field for decades. So whoever we're working with is really explaining things to us and the audience, really helping us understand what we're doing, helping the audience understand what they're seeing, why it's important, why it's not important. So I think you'll get that in our show, but you obviously get it on Discovery Channel anyway. So.
Do you still own the chum chipper? That blew me away. Talk about an ingenious invention for chumming the waters.
Yeah.
The chum chipper.
Yeah. Once we got it working, the chum chipper at first, we kept putting frozen fish into it, and it wasn't chumming very well.
Oh, really?
It was shutting down the engine every time it was doing it. So once we learned how to do it, a little finesse, then it was chumming out of control.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely rivals Fargo for the most disgusting use of a wood chipper.
Yes, it does. And it was disgusting.
Oh, yeah. And it looked like there was a little bit of blowback, too.
Oh, yeah. When you're on the open ocean, you never know where that one's going to go.
Now, with Global Investigator and Shark Trip and Rob Riggle's Ski Master Academy, The Daily Show, and so many other things that you do, you're often playing what I think you described last time as a heightened version of yourself. Do you have as much fun playing Rob Riggle as you do playing a role in a movie, or maybe even more fun?
Maybe. That's a good question. I don't know. A lot of this stuff, like when I am on Shark Week or doing Global Investigator, it is a heightened version of myself. So it's a lot of my personality, but I take it to the 10th power.
Yeah.
Which means, I'm being much louder than I normally am, or being a little more verbose, or a little more arrogant, or a little more, because you got to pump it up. It's entertainment too. You got to try to entertain a little bit and have some fun. Probably, I think it still applies. It's a heightened version of myself.
Yeah. At some point I read that you described the style of the parts that you take on as arrogant ignorance.
Yes.
I think you may have come up with a new addition for the Myers-Briggs scale. What is arrogant ignorance?
Arrogant ignorance it's a comedy game. It's a game I play. It's a tonality of a character. And I've always, as an audience member, J.D. Salinger said, you were a reader before you were ever a writer. And I've always taken that and just said, well, you were always an audience member before you were ever on stage.
Huh.
And so as an audience member, I know what I like to see. I know what I like to watch. I know what I find funny. And I always found characters that were large and in charge, but just totally wrong.
Yeah.
Hilarious. I thought they were always really funny. Or the jerk that thought he was really cool, but he's really not. Think about the principal in The Breakfast Club. Okay, he's such a jerk, but yet he thought he was so awesome and cool, and like that's funny to me. That's a hilarious character. That's a character that also, when executed properly, allows all the other characters to shine. Yeah. They really get to rise. They get to be their best selves because they get to make fun of this jerk. Right?
Yeah.
And it serves the comedy. And so that's what I always liked, playing a character that did stuff like that. So I always call my name for that particular game of comedy is arrogant ignorance. Large and in charge.
Kind of perfect.
Totally wrong-headed.
And I always wonder with you or with, I don't know, like guys like Larry David or Stephen Colbert, how do you decide how much of yourself you put into that character that is you, and maybe what traits that you might not want to be associated with? Because let's face it, there's a blurring of reality there, and there are some people who maybe don't know the difference.
Well, yeah, look, I can't help the people who don't know the difference.
Yeah, they're a lost cause.
Yeah, because I get people coming up or they prejudge, because they've seen me be a character.
Yeah. Do you get people who come up and think that you're some kind of an obnoxious dick or some kind of buffoon?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, sure. Happens all the time. And that's it's all about them. It has nothing to do with me, because I'm not doing anything that rates that, I mean, response. It's just I saw this guy on TV, he's a dick. Well, yeah, on TV. In a character where I play Gil Thorpe, on Modern Family. Yeah. My whole job is to be Phil Dunphy's nemesis. Well, I can't be his nemesis if I'm a sweetheart.
Yeah.
I've got to be a jerk. So I'm a jerk, And I got to tell you, just as an actor, there's something so fun and so liberating. You ask any actor, if they're allowed to play the bad guy, they love it, because you get to take a part of your personality that should never, ever be allowed to come out for a walk, and you get to let them out and walk around.
Yeah.
And, you think about situations and scenarios, if it was me, generally I'm conflict averse. I try to greet people with a smile. I try to be friendly. I try to work things. If people are getting hostile, I just generally remove myself. I don't. So, but the characters I play, their attitude would be bring it on. Yeah. I want more. You think you're a jerk, I'll double jerk you, and it'll be the worst thing you ever saw. I will. That probably came out wrong. It sounded terrible. I'll be a double jerk to you. But yeah, so and that's fun. It's really fun to take take that side of you for a walk, because it should never be out.
Yeah. And it's funny because I was just talking before you came in with the folks here from Discovery, and we were both talking about just what a nice, humble, easygoing guy you are. And I actually threw out a theory to them. I said, is it maybe the case where you play so many assholes and you play the divas and all that, that in reality, you're like, have this heightened awareness of diva behavior and like other people's feelings and that kind of thing.
I don't know. When I was younger, I used to, whenever I saw conflict, two guys in a bar or somebody fighting on a bus or, whatever it was, I would always be really embarrassed or for them or scared or nervous about it. And I just wouldn't want to look. So I would always, I'd look away or I'd want to get away. And then when I started acting, I realized, no, don't look away. Watch, study it, watch them, watch their reactions, listen to the words they say, watch the tremor in their voice, watch their hands shake, watch the anger in their eyes, watch how they want to say one thing, but it comes out another way, or watch how they big time everybody in the room. And I just started watching and observing it. And of course, I like everybody, we all go through life. We all have good bosses, bad bosses. We have bullies that bully us. We have, nerds or jerks that come around us that are annoying as hell. And, they're not dangerous, but they just annoy you, or people that you have a conversation with and you're like, God, it's like pushing a rock up a hill just to have a conversation with this person, and it's exhausting. And then you don't want to be around them because I don't want to, you see him coming down the hallway and you're like, oh God, I don't want to have this conversation where I'm doing all the lifting, and
right.
And so there's all kinds of people
like
out there, but there's all kinds of people. And you have to observe it all because you never know when you'll call on that. Because if you're playing high status, well, then there's a certain tonality and a way you carry yourself, even in the physiology of your body. And if you're low status, there's a way to do that too. And if you're annoying, there's a way to do that. And you can actually draw specifics from the people in your life. And so I've always, now I observe everything. I take everything in because I actually draw on it. And I use it.
Wow. Rob Riggle, the Marine who doesn't like conflict. I love it. Well,
unearned conflict. I don't mind some conflict.
Fair enough. Well, again, Rob Riggle, Global Investigator, premieres March 8th on Discovery Network. Rob, good talking to you.
Nice talking to you.
Thanks again to Rob Riggle for coming on the podcast. Rob Riggle, Global Investigator, premieres Sunday, March 8th at 10 p.m. Eastern on Discovery. For more information, visit discovery.com and follow Rob on Twitter at Rob Riggle. Today's episode is brought to you by Kronos. Kronos provides HR solutions for the modern workforce and the people who support, motivate, and engage them. They put HR, payroll, talent, and timekeeping on a single cloud-based platform. Learn more about Kronos HR, payroll, talent, and time at kronos.com/HRswagger. That's kronos.com/HRswagger. If you enjoyed today's podcast, be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and rate and review us while you're there. 5-star ratings and detailed reviews are one of the best ways for new listeners to discover the show. You can also follow us on Facebook or on Twitter at @KickassNewsPod and recommend us to your friends on your social media. For more fun stuff, visit kickassnews.com, and I welcome your comments, questions, and suggestions at comments@kickassnews.com. For now, I'm Ben Mathis, and thanks for listening to Kick-Ass News.